Document. Part 1. The stars shimmered like tiny diamonds scattered across the endless black canvas of space. For centuries, humanity had looked up at them with wonder, dreaming of what might lie beyond Earth's thin atmosphere. But now, those dreams were no longer just stories or theories. Humanity had finally reached the stars. It all started with a signua, strange pulse of energy that came from deep within the galaxy. At first, scientists thought it was a natural phenomenon, some kind of cosmic anomaly, but when they analyzed it further, they realized it wasn't random. It carried a message, one written in mathematics so complex that it could only have been created by an intelligent mind. The message was simple: come to us. The United Nations wasted no time. This was humanity's chance to step onto the galactic stage, to prove that Earth wasn't just a lonely rock floating in the void. A delegation was quickly assembled, tasked with representing humanity in what promised to be the most important meeting in history. What they didn't expect, though, was who would lead this mission. Daniel Hayes was not your typical diplomat. He was a soldier, a man more comfortable giving orders than shaking hands. His reputation for being blunt and unyielding had earned him both respect and enemies during his years of service. Some said he lacked the charm needed for diplomacy, but others argued that his straightforwardness was exactly what humanity needed in uncertain times. When asked why he accepted the role, Daniel simply shrugged. "If we're walking into danger," he said, "we might as well bring someone who knows how to handle it." Laura Bennett, on the other hand, was the complete opposite. A brilliant scientist with a passion for discovery, she saw the universe as a puzzle waiting to be solved. Her curiosity often led her into situations where caution would have been wiser, but her optimism made her impossible to dislike. While Daniel prepared for conflict, Laura hoped for cooperation. She believed that if humanity showed its best side, creativity, its resilience, it could earn a place among the stars. Together, they boarded the Aurora Dawn, a sleek spacecraft designed specifically for this mission. Its engines hummed softly as it hovered above the launch pad, ready to carry its crew across unimaginable distances. The ship itself was a marvel of human ingenuity, equipped with advanced navigation systems, cutting-edge weapons, and enough supplies to sustain the team for months. It was also cloaked in a sleek silver exterior, polished to reflect the light of distant suns as the countdown began. Crowds gathered around the launch site, their faces lit with excitement and hope. Children waved flags, reporters shouted questions, and government officials stood stiffly, trying to project confidence. Inside the ship, however, the mood was far less celebratory. Tension crackled between Daniel and Laura as they reviewed the mission details one last time. "You really think this is going to work?" Daniel asked, leaning against the control panel. His arms were crossed, his expression skeptical. "It has to," Laura replied, without looking up from her tablet. Her fingers danced across the screen as she double-checked the data. "This isn't just about us anymore. It's about proving that humanity deserves a seat at the table." Daniel snorted. "And what if these aliens don't care about earning seats? What if they decide we're better off staying quiet and staying out of their way? Then we'll deal with it," Laura said firmly. She finally looked up, meeting his gaze. There was steel in her voice now. "But I refuse to go in assuming the worst. We owe it to ourselves and to everyone watching back home to try." Before Daniel could respond, the intercom crackled to life. 30 seconds to launch, came the calm voice of the pilot. Both Daniel and Laura straightened, pushing aside their differences for the moment. They exchanged a glance, silently acknowledging the weight of what they were about to do. The engines roared to life, drowning out the cheers of the crowd below. The Aurora Dawn lifted off smoothly, climbing higher and higher until the blue curve of Earth disappeared behind them. For a while, there was only silence as the ship broke free of gravity's pull and entered the vast emptiness of space. Laura stared out the viewport, her breath catching at the sight. Stars stretched endlessly in every direction, each one a potential destination. It's beautiful, she murmured, almost to herself. Yeah, Daniel said gruffly, joining her at the window. But beauty doesn't always mean safe. Keep your guard up. Hours turned into days as the Aurora Dawn sped toward its destination. Along the way, the crew ran simulations, practiced emergency protocols, and debated strategies. Despite their differences, Daniel and Laura found themselves working together more often than not. Laura's knowledge of science complemented Daniel's tactical expertise, creating a balance neither of them had anticipated. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, the ship approached the coordinates provided in the alien signal. Ahead of them loomed a massive structure, a colossal space station orbiting a dying star. Its surface glowed faintly, pulsing with an eerie light that seemed alive. This was the Nexus, the heart of the Valtori Empire. As the Aurora Dawn docked, Daniel and Laura stepped onto the platform, flanked by their small team. Waiting for them were towering figures with crystalline skin that sparkled like gemstones. Their eyes glowed faintly, studying the humans with an intensity that made Daniel's hand twitch toward his weapon. One of the aliens stepped forward, taller than the rest. Her voice resonated through the chamber, deep and commanding. I am Zanara, leader of the Valtari Council. You are unexpected. Daniel squared his shoulders, refusing to show any sign of intimidation. Beside him, Laura took a deep breath, her mind racing with possibilities. Whatever happened next, one thing was certain: humanity had arrived, and it wasn't going to back down. Document Part 2. The air inside the Nexus was cool and carried a faint metallic temps, a stark contrast to the warmth of Earth's atmosphere. The towering Valtari Council members surrounded Daniel and Laura, their crystalline forms shimmering under the dim light of the dying star outside. Zanara stood at the center, her glowing eyes fixed on the humans with an unreadable expression. Her voice echoed through the chamber, each word deliberate and measured. You are unexpected, she repeated, tilting her head slightly, as if studying an unfamiliar artifact. We summoned representatives from Earth, yet you bring warriors. Daniel clenched his jaw, resisting the urge to snap back. He straightened his posture, his hand instinctively brushing against the holster of his plasma pistol. Laura, sensing the tension rising, stepped forward slightly, her calm demeanor a counterbalance to Daniel's bristling energy. We are here as representatives of humanity, Laura said firmly, her voice steady, despite the weight of the moment. Warriors or not, we came because you asked us to. We hoped for dialogue, not judgment. Zanara's lips curved into what might have been a smile or, perhaps, a sneer. It was impossible to tell with her alien features. Dialogue, she mused, drawing out the word as though it amused her. Humans have much to learn before they can engage in meaningful dialogue with the Valtari. You are young, fragile, and untested. Why should we waste our time on such a species? Laura stiffened, but kept her composure. She glanced at Daniel, who looked ready to argue, and gave him a subtle shake of her head. Now wasn't the time to let anger take over. Instead, Laura addressed Zanara directly. If we're so unworthy, then why did you call us here? Surely there must be some value in speaking with us, or else you wouldn't have bothered. Zanara's gaze lingered on Laura for a moment longer, before shifting to scan the rest of the human delegation. Her expression softened, though it still held an edge of disdain. Very well, she said finally. Perhaps there is merit in observing your kind, but know this: you are not equals here. Humanity will earn its place among the stars if it proves capable. With that, Zanara turned and gestured for the humans to follow her. The Valtari Council members parted, creating a pathway deeper into the Nexus. As they walked, the humans couldn't help but marvel at their surroundings. The walls of the station were smooth and translucent, pulsing faintly with light that seemed to flow like liquid. Strange symbols glowed along the corridors, shifting and changing, as though alive. It was both beautiful and unsettling. A reminder of just how far humanity had yet to go to match the technological prowess of the Valtari. They arrived at a grand chamber, its ceiling stretching high above them, like the dome of a cathedral. In the center of the room was a circular platform surrounded by holographic displays. Other delegations from across the galaxy were already present, their forms as varied as the stars themselves. Some were insectoid creatures with multiple limbs and faceted eyes. Others floated silently, their bodies composed entirely of swirling energy. All of them turned to watch as the humans entered, their expressions ranging from curiosity to outright hostility. "This is where the trials begin," Zanara announced, her voice carrying across the chamber. "Each species will demonstrate its worthiness to join the galactic community. Those who fail," she paused, letting the implication hang in the air, "will be cast aside." Daniel exchanged a glance with Laura, his brow furrowed. Trials? They hadn't been told about any tests. Before either of them could ask for clarification, Zanara continued, "You will compete in challenges designed to assess strength, intelligence, and adaptability. Only those who excel will earn the Council's favor." Laura leaned closer to Daniel, keeping her voice low. "This doesn't feel like diplomacy, it feels like a competition. What do you think?" "I think we'd better win," Daniel muttered under his breath. His fingers twitched again, itching to grip his weapon. "If these aliens want a show of power, we'll give them one." The first trial began shortly after. A holographic arena materialized in the center of the chamber, its surface rippling like water before solidifying into a battlefield. One by one, the delegations stepped forward to showcase their abilities. The insectoids demonstrated incredible speed and precision, dismantling targets with surgical accuracy. The energy beings displayed mastery over their own forms, splitting into smaller entities that moved independently before merging back into a single unit. When it was humanity's turn, Daniel stepped forward without hesitation. Laura hesitated for a moment, unsure if this was the right move, but ultimately decided to trust him. As Daniel approached the arena, the other delegates watched with varying degrees of interest and skepticism. "Show us what you've got, human," Zanara said, her tone dripping with mockery. Daniel didn't respond. Instead, he activated the prototype plasma cannon embedded in his armor. The weapon hummed to life, emitting a soft blue glow. With a swift motion, he aimed and fired, unleashing a controlled burst of energy that obliterated the target in an instant. Gasps rippled through the crowd as the holographic debris dissipated into nothingness. For a moment, there was silence. Then Zanara spoke, her voice laced with something new, perhaps respect, perhaps concern. "Impressive," she admitted, "but brute force alone does not define strength. Let us see if your kind possesses anything beyond weapons." As Daniel returned to the group, Laura gave him a nod of approval. While his display had been bold, she knew they needed more than firepower to win over the Council. During the next trial, which involved solving a complex puzzle, using logic and teamwork, Laura took the lead. She worked quickly, deciphering patterns and coordinating with Ethan Cole, the team's engineer, to complete the task ahead of the other delegations. By the end of the day, the humans had earned a mix of reactions from the Council and the other species. Some viewed them with newfound respect, while others dismissed them as reckless upstarts. But one thing was clear: humanity had made an impression. Back aboard the Aurora Dawn, the team gathered to discuss their performance. Daniel paced the room, his frustration evident. "They're testing us like lab rats," he growled. "What gives them the right to judge us?" "They're trying to assert dominance," Laura replied calmly. "It's what powerful species do. They look for weaknesses to exploit. But we showed them we're not easy prey. That's important." Ethan nodded in agreement. "Yeah, and we've got something most of these aliens don't: grit. We don't need fancy powers or weird biology to stand out. Samantha Brooks, the diplomat, frowned thoughtfully. Still, we can't rely on brute force forever. If we want to survive here, we'll need allies. Maybe we should focus on building connections with some of the other delegations. Laura considered this, her mind racing with possibilities. She's right. If we play our cards right, we might be able to turn this situation to our advantage. But we need to stay sharpened, careful. Daniel stopped pacing and looked at Laura. Careful isn't my style, but fine. For now, we'll play along. Just remember, if things go south, I'm not holding back. As the ship drifted quietly in orbit around the Nexus, the humans prepared for whatever challenges lay ahead. They had proven they could hold their own, but the real test was only beginning. And deep down, they all knew that the stakes were higher than any of them had imagined. Document Part 3. The next day began with a summons. Zanara requested that Daniel and Laura meet her privately in a secluded chamber deep within the Nexus. The invitation was phrased as a courtesy, but both humans knew better it wasn't a request they could refuse. As they followed a Voltari guide through twisting corridors, their footsteps echoed faintly against the translucent walls. The air grew heavier with each step, charged with an energy that made Laura's skin tingle. When they arrived, the chamber was unlike anything they'd seen before. It was smaller than the Grand Hall, where the trials had taken place, but its design was intricate and otherworldly. Patterns of light danced across the floor, shifting and rearranging themselves like living creatures. At the center stood Xena, her crystalline form glowing brighter than usual. She turned to face them, her expression unreadable. "You have demonstrated potential," she began, her voice carrying a strange mix of curiosity and skepticism. "But potential alone is meaningless without purpose. Tell me, why should the Voltari Council consider humanity worthy of inclusion?" Laura stepped forward, her mind racing to find the right words. "Humanity has faced countless challenges throughout its history," she said carefully. "We've survived wars, plagues, and natural disasters. Each time we've rebuilt stronger and wiser. Our strength lies not just in our technology or weapons, but in our ability to adapt and persevere." Zinara tilted her head, studying Laura, with those piercing, glowing eyes. "Adaptation is valuable, yes, but survival does not guarantee relevance. Many species survive only to fade into obscurity. What makes your kind different?" Daniel crossed his arms, his patience wearing thin. "You're asking us to justify ourselves when you haven't even told us what this is really about. Why did you call us here? What do you want from Earth?" Zinara's lips curved into a faint smile, though it lacked warmth. Candid, as always. "Very well, I will indulge your curiosity. Humanity's resources are vast untapped minerals, fertile lands, oceans teeming with life. Such abundance is rare in the galaxy. The Council seeks to ensure that these resources are used efficiently for the greater good, of course." Laura's heart sank. She had suspected as much, but hearing it confirmed sent a chill down her spine. "You mean exploitation?" she said flatly. "You want to take what we have, without giving anything in return." Zinara didn't deny it. Instead, she gestured toward the shimmering patterns on the floor. "Consider it a partnership. Humanity provides what it can, and in exchange, we offer protection and guidance. Surely, that is preferable to isolation or worse, annihilation." Daniel clenched his fists, his temper simmering just below the surface. "That's not a partnership, extortion. And if you think we're going to roll over and let you walk all over us, you're dead wrong." Before Zinara could respond, Laura intervened, placing a hand on Daniel's arm to calm him. Her sharp mind was already working, piecing together the implications of Zinara's words. If the Voltari truly intended to exploit Earth's resources, there had to be evidence somewhere within the Nexus. She needed time to investigate, but how? "Let's say we agree to cooperate," Laura said slowly, choosing her words carefully. What guarantees do we have that you'll honor your side of the deal? How do we know you won't simply discard us once you've taken what you need? Zanara's smile widened, revealing rows of razor-sharp teeth. Trust is earned, not given. Prove yourselves valuable, and perhaps we will reconsider. Fail, and... She let the sentence trail off, leaving the threat unspoken as they left the chamber. Daniel muttered under his breath, I don't trust her as far as I can throw her. Neither do I, Laura replied quietly. But I think I might know how to find out what she's hiding. Back aboard the Aurora Dawn, Laura wasted no time. She gathered Ethan Cole, the ship's engineer, and asked him to help her hack into the Nexus's systems. Ethan hesitated at first, knowing how dangerous it would be if they were caught. But Laura's determination convinced him to go along with the plan. Using data collected during their earlier explorations of the station, Ethan managed to bypass the Nexus's security protocols. It wasn't easy. The Veltari technology was far more advanced than anything humanity had encountered, but after hours of painstaking work, he succeeded in accessing encrypted files stored deep within the system. What they found shocked them. The files contained detailed records of the Valtari's actions across the galaxy, entire civilizations wiped out, planets stripped bare of resources, populations enslaved or exterminated. The Council portrayed itself as benevolent rulers, but in reality, they were tyrants, maintaining power through fear and manipulation. This is bad, Ethan whispered, his face pale as he scrolled through the documents. If they find out we have this. They won't, Laura said firmly. At least, not yet. We need to send this information back to Earth immediately. If the rest of humanity knows the truth, they'll be prepared to fight back if necessary. While Laura worked on transmitting the data, Daniel focused on preparing the team for whatever came next. He drilled them relentlessly, ensuring everyone knew how to handle their weapons and equipment. Samantha Brooks, the diplomat, tried to argue that aggression wouldn't solve anything, but Daniel cut her off. We're not looking for a fight, he said sharply. But if one comes, I'm not letting anyone get hurt because we weren't ready. Despite their growing unease, the humans continued to participate in the trials. Each challenge pushed them to their limits, testing not just their physical abilities, but also their ingenuity and teamwork. During one particularly grueling test, they were placed in a simulated environment where they had to navigate treacherous terrain while fending off holographic predators. Daniel took point, using his plasma cannon to clear a path, while Laura coordinated the group's movements, keeping everyone focused and calm under pressure. Their performance earned them cautious respect from some of the other delegations. Kale, a member of a small species called the Krylos, approached them after the trial. His frame was slight, almost fragile-looking, and his voice was soft, but urgent. You're not like the others, he said, glancing around nervously to ensure no one was listening. You fight back. Most species bow to the Valtari, but you stand your ground. Laura studied him carefully. Why are you telling us this? Kale hesitated, then lowered his voice even further. Because my people suffered under the Council's rule. They erased us from history, made us forget who we were. But I remember, and I think you can help us if you're willing to take the risk. Daniel frowned. What kind of risk are we talking about? Kale met his gaze, his eyes filled with a mixture of hope and desperation. There's a way to weaken the Valtari, to expose their lies to the galaxy, but it's dangerous. You'd need allies, resources, and courage. Do you have those things? Laura exchanged a glance with Daniel. They both knew the answer. Courage wasn't something they lacked, not anymore. And if Kale was telling the truth, he might hold the key to turning the tide against the Valtari. We'll do it, Laura said finally, but we'll need your help. Show us what you know, and we'll figure out the rest together. As Kale nodded and slipped away into the shadows, Daniel turned to Laura. Are you sure about this? Trusting him could get us killed. I'm sure, Laura replied, her voice steady. We can't keep playing by their rules, Daniel. It's time we started making our own. With newfound resolve, the humans prepared for the battle ahead. They didn't know what challenges awaited them, but one thing was certain: they wouldn't face them alone. Together, they would uncover the truth, rally allies, and fight for humanity's place among the stars, even if it meant taking on the most powerful force in the galaxy. Document Part 4. The Aurora Dawn drifted silently in orbit around the Nexus, its crew working tirelessly to process the information Laura and Ethan had uncovered. The encrypted files painted a grim picture of the Valteri's true nature: tyrants who ruled through fear and deception, exploiting weaker species for their resources and erasing those who resisted. Laura knew that exposing this truth could shift the balance of power in the galaxy, but she also understood the risks. If the Valtari discovered what they were doing, humanity would face consequences far worse than failure in the trials. While Ethan worked on encrypting the data further before sending it back to Earth, Laura focused on building trust with Kale, the mysterious Krylos who had approached them. She invited him aboard the ship, offering him a safe space to share more about his people and their history. Kale hesitated at first, clearly unused to being treated as an equal, but eventually, he opened up. The Valtari didn't just enslave my people, Kale explained, his voice trembling with emotion. They erased our memories, rewrote our pasts so we'd forget who we were. They wanted us to believe we were nothing, just tools to be used and discarded. But some of us remembered. We hid, survived, and waited for a chance to fight back. Laura listened intently, her heart breaking for the suffering Kale's people had endured. Why are you telling us this now? She asked gently. Why take the risk? Kale looked at her, his eyes filled with determination. Because I see something in you humans, something different. You don't bow easily. You fight, even when the odds are against you. And if anyone can stand against the Valtari, it's you. Daniel, who had been standing quietly in the corner, stepped forward. His expression was hard, but there was a flicker of respect in his eyes. If we're going to do this, we need more than just words. What can you offer us? Weapons? Intel? Something that'll give us an edge? Kale nodded, pulling out a small device from a pouch slung across his shoulder. It was sleek and metallic, glowing faintly with a soft blue light. This is a map of the Nexus's core systems, he explained. It shows the locations of their weapons caches, communication hubs, and the central control room. If you can disable their primary systems, you'll cripple their ability to enforce their will. Laura took the device carefully, examining it closely. This could be exactly what we need, she said, her mind already racing with possibilities. But getting to the core won't be easy. The Valtori have layers of security, and they'll be watching us closely after today's trial. Kale leaned in, his voice dropping to a whisper. That's why you'll need help. My people may not look like fighters, but we've learned how to move unseen. We can guide you through the Nexus, distract the guards, and create openings for you to strike. Daniel crossed his arms, his skepticism evident. And what's in it for you? Why risk your necks for us? Kale met his gaze without flinching. Freedom, revenge, a future where no one else has to suffer under the Voltaire's rule. Isn't that worth fighting for? For a moment, no one spoke. The weight of Kale's words hung heavy in the air. Finally, Daniel gave a curt nod. All right, we'll work together. But if this goes sideways, don't expect me to save your hide. Kale smiled faintly. Understood. Back on the Nexus, tensions continued to rise. The trials grew more intense, pushing the delegations to their limits. During one particularly brutal challenge, teams were pitted against each other in a high-stakes race, through a labyrinth filled with traps and hostile drones. The humans performed admirably, thanks in part to Laura's quick thinking and Daniel's. combat skills. But as they neared the finish line, Samantha Brooks stumbled, twisting her ankle badly. "Keep going," she shouted, waving off Daniel's attempt to help her. "Finish the trial. Don't let them see weakness." Reluctantly, Daniel obeyed, helping Laura and Ethan complete the course, while Ethan stayed behind to assist Samantha. When the team finally crossed the finish line, they found themselves facing Zanara once again. Her glowing eyes narrowed as she studied them, her tone icy. "You left one of your own behind," she observed. "Is this how humanity defines loyalty?" "It's how we define teamwork," Laura shot back, her voice steady, despite the anger bubbling inside her. "We all play our roles, and we trust each other to get the job done. Leaving someone behind isn't abandonment, it's strategy." Zanara's lips curled into a faint smirk, though whether it was amusement or disdain was impossible to tell. "Fascinating. Perhaps there is more to your species than I initially believed." Later that evening, as the team regrouped aboard the Aurora Dawn, Samantha winced as Ethan wrapped her ankle in a makeshift bandage. "I'm fine," she insisted, though her pale face told a different story. "Don't worry about me. Focus on the bigger picture." "The bigger picture is starting to come together," Laura said, holding up the map Kale had given them. "With this, we might be able to shut down the Nexus's core systems and expose the Valtari for who they really are." "But how do we pull it off?" Ethan asked, frowning at the device. "Even with Kale's people helping, the Valtari aren't going to let us waltz into their control room." "We'll make our own opening," Daniel replied, his tone resolute. "We hit them hard and fast, create enough chaos to draw their attention away from the core. Once we're in, we disable their systems and broadcast that data Laura sent to Earth. Let the whole galaxy see what they're really dealing with." Laura nodded, though her mind was still turning over the details. "It's risky, but it's our best shot. We'll need everyone working together, not just us, but Kale's people and any other delegations willing to join us." The next day, Laura and Daniel approached several of the other delegations, subtly gauging their willingness to rebel against the Volt. Some dismissed them outright, too afraid to defy the council. Others, however, showed glimmers of interest. One delegation, led by a hulking reptilian species called the Drakthor, agreed to provide reinforcements during the attack. Their leader, a grizzled warrior named Rukar, grinned toothily as he pounded his chest in agreement. "You want to strike at the heart of the Nexus?" Rukar rumbled, his voice deep and gravelly. "Count us in. The Valtari have preyed on the weak for too long. It's time someone taught them a lesson." With allies secured and plans in motion, the humans prepared for the final phase of their mission. They spent hours reviewing the map, strategizing every step of the infiltration. Kale and his people provided invaluable insights, pointing out hidden passages and blind spots in the Nexus's defenses. Meanwhile, Ethan modified the ship's engines to create a massive energy surge that would temporarily disable parts of the station and buy them time as the day of the attack approached. The atmosphere aboard the Aurora Dawn grew tense. Everyone knew the stakes. They were walking into a fight they might not survive, but there was also a sense of purpose, a shared determination to stand up to the Valtari and fight for something greater than themselves. On the eve of the operation, Laura stood alone in the observation deck, staring out at the glowing expanse of the Nexus. Daniel joined her a few moments later, leaning against the railing beside her. "You think this is going to work?" he asked, his voice uncharacteristically quiet. Laura hesitated, then nodded. "It has to. If we fail, the Valtari will keep doing what they've always done, exploiting, destroying, ruling through fear. We can't let that happen." Daniel glanced at her, a rare smile tugging at the corners of his mouth. "You know, for a scientist, you're pretty good at this whole rebellion thing." Laura chuckled softly. "And for a soldier, you're surprisingly diplomatic when it counts." They shared a brief moment of camaraderie before Daniel straightened, his expression turning serious once more. "Tomorrow, we fight. No matter what happens, we stick together. Agreed, Laura said, firmly, meeting his gaze. Together, as the stars twinkled outside the viewport, the humans prepared to take their stand. They knew the road ahead would be dangerous, perhaps even deadly, but for the first time since arriving at the Nexus, they felt a spark of hope. Hope that they could change the course of history and prove to the galaxy that humanity wasn't just another species waiting to be dominated. They were a force to be reckoned with. Document Part 5. The hours leading up to the operation passed in a blur of activity aboard the Aurora Dawn. The crew worked tirelessly, double-checking every detail of their plan. Weapons were cleaned and loaded, communication devices tested, and escape routes memorized. Laura and Daniel held one final meeting with Kale and Rukar, ensuring everyone understood their roles. Tensions were high, but there was also a sense of unity, a shared purpose that bound them together. "We strike at dawn," Daniel said, his voice firm as he addressed the group. "Ethan will trigger the engine surge from the ship to create the diversion. That'll draw most of the Valtari forces away from the core. Kale's people will guide us through the hidden passages and deal with any guards we encounter. Once we reach the control room, Laura will disable the systems, while I keep watch." Kale nodded, his expression grim but determined. "My people, already. We'll make sure you have a clear path." Rukar flexed his massive claws, a low growl rumbling in his throat. "And my warriors will hold the perimeter. No Valtari will get past us." Laura looked around the room, her heart swelling with gratitude for these unlikely allies. If this works, it won't just be a victory for humanity, it'll be a victory for all species who've suffered under the Valtari. Let's make it count. As the first light of the dying star filtered through the Nexus's translucent walls, the team moved into position. Ethan remained aboard the Aurora Dawn, his fingers flying across the control panel as he initiated the engine surge. A deep hum filled the ship, growing louder and more intense until it reached a deafening crescendo. Suddenly, a burst of energy shot out from the vessel, striking the Nexus's outer hull and causing a cascade of failures throughout the station. Alarms blared, and the corridors erupted into chaos. Valtari enforcers rushed toward the source of the disturbance, leaving key areas of the station vulnerable. It was exactly what the humans had hoped for. "Now," Daniel shouted, signaling the others to move. They slipped into the shadows, following Kale through a network of narrow tunnels that wound beneath the main levels of the Nexus. The air was thick with dust and the faint scent of metal, and the walls seemed to pulse faintly with residual energy. They encountered their first obstacles sooner than expected, a pair of Valtari guards stationed near a critical junction. Kale raised a hand, motioning for silence. With practiced precision, two of his companions darted forward, using tools to disable the guards' weapons before they could react. Within moments, the enforcers were unconscious, dragged into the shadows to prevent discovery. "Good work," Daniel whispered, giving Kale an approving nod. "Let's keep moving." The group pressed on, navigating the labyrinthine passages with increasing urgency. Every step brought them closer to the core, but also deeper into danger. At one point, they narrowly avoided detection when a squad of Valtari reinforcements marched past, their boots echoing ominously in the confined space. Laura clenched her fists, forcing herself to stay calm. She knew panic would only slow them down. Instead, she focused on the map glowing softly in her hand, guiding the team toward their destination. The central control room was just ahead, protected by heavy doors reinforced with energy shields. "This is it?" she said quietly, her voice steady, despite the adrenaline coursing through her veins. "We need to override the security protocols to get inside." Ethan's voice crackled over the comlink. "I've got your back. Patching into the system now." Back aboard the Aurora Dawn, Ethan worked furiously, bypassing layers of encryption, to unlock the doors. Sweat dripped down his forehead as he typed, his hands moving faster than ever before. Finally, with a triumphant shout, he succeeded. "You're in. But hurry, the Voltari will notice something's wrong soon." The doors slid open with a soft hiss, revealing the heart of the Nexus. The control room was a vast chamber filled with towering consoles and holographic displays. Streams of data flowed across the screens, depicting the station's operations in real time. In the center stood a massive crystalline structure, pulsating with a brilliant blue light. This was the Nexus's core source of its power. "All right, let's do this," Laura said, stepping forward. She connected her tablet to the main console, her fingers dancing across the keys as she began disabling the systems. Alarms flared immediately, warning of unauthorized access, but Laura ignored them, her focus absolute. Outside the control room, Rukar and his warriors clashed with Voltari enforcers. Holding the line against overwhelming odds, the Drakthor fought with ferocity, their claws and teeth tearing through the crystalline armor of their enemies. For every warrior they lost, 2 more Voltari fell, buying precious time for the humans inside. Meanwhile, Kale and his people patrolled the surrounding corridors, neutralizing any threats that managed to slip past Rukar's defenses. Their movements were silent and efficient, a testament to years of surviving under the radar. When a group of Voltari attempted to flank the control room, Kale's team intercepted them, engaging in a fierce but brief skirmish that ended with the aliens retreating. Inside, Laura's progress was interrupted by a sudden voice booming through the chamber. It was Zenara, her tone cold and commanding. "You dare defy the Council? You insignificant creatures think you can challenge our authority?" Daniel stepped between Laura and the nearest console, raising his plasma pistol. "Stay focused, Laura. Don't let her distract you." Zenara's laughter echoed through the room, sending shivers down Laura's spine. "Your resistance is futile. You may destroy this station, but you cannot escape the consequences." Laura gritted her teeth, refusing to rise to the bait. She concentrated on her task, systematically shutting down the Nexus's systems. One by one, the displays flickered and went dark, plunging the chamber into semi-darkness. The core's glow dimmed slightly, its energy beginning to waver. "You're done, Zenara," Laura called out, her voice strong, despite the fear bubbling beneath the surface. "Your lies are about to be exposed to the entire galaxy. Humanity isn't weak, we're stronger than you ever imagined." For a moment, there was silence. Then Zenara spoke again, her words laced with venom. "So be it. But know this, the galaxy will remember your defiance and your downfall." Suddenly, the ground shook violently as explosions rocked the station. The engine surge had destabilized parts of the Nexus, causing structural damage that spread rapidly. Warning klaxons blared, urging evacuation. "We're running out of time," Daniel shouted, grabbing Laura's arm. "Finish it." With one last command, Laura triggered the final sequence. The core's light flared brightly, then faded completely, plunging the Nexus into darkness. The transmission containing the evidence of the Voltari's crimes was already en route to Earth, broadcasted across subspace channels for all to see. "Let's go," Daniel yelled, pulling Laura toward the exit. Behind them, the crystalline structure began to crack, releasing bursts of unstable energy. The Nexus was collapsing. They sprinted through the corridors, dodging falling debris and bursts of sparks. Kale and his team rejoined them, guiding them through the safest routes. Outside, Rukar and his warriors covered their retreat, fighting valiantly until the very end. As the humans reached the docking bay, they turned back briefly to see the Drakthor making a final stand, roaring defiantly as the Voltari closed in. "Thank you," Laura whispered, tears welling in her eyes. "For everything." The Aurora. Dawn launched just as the Nexus imploded, sending shockwaves rippling through space. From the safety of the ship, the crew watched as the once mighty station disintegrated into fragments. Swallowed by the dying star it orbited. Back aboard the ship, The mood was somber, but resolute. They had succeeded in exposing the Voltaire's tyranny, but at great cost. Lives had been lost, sacrifices made. Yet, amidst the grief, there was also hope. Hope that their actions would inspire others to rise up, to demand justice and freedom. As the stars stretched out before them, Laura leaned back in her seat, exhaustion washing over her. Daniel placed a hand on her shoulder, offering silent support. "We did it," she said softly, her voice tinged with both pride and sorrow. "But this is just the beginning." Daniel nodded, his jaw set firmly. "Yeah, and whatever comes next, we'll face it together." In the distance, the remnants of the Nexus burned brightly, a symbol of rebellion against oppression. Humanity had proven itself capable of standing toe-to-toe with the galaxy's most powerful forces. And though the road ahead would be long and fraught with challenges, one thing was certain: they had taken their first steps toward becoming a true galactic power.